Hey there, it's the Transcend Three Amigos, Tres Hombres, whatever you want to call us. Coming to you from the Ritchie Market. And we want to talk to you about the third offering of our 50-pound fund. So Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit about this coffee?
Sure. So the last two coffees, if you have been subscribing this whole time, were a geisha and an SL28, so some pretty interesting exotic varieties for Costa Rica. This one is a bit more of a common variety. It's called Caturra. However, it tastes super interesting, and that has a lot to do with the exceptional post-harvest processing that it underwent. This comes from a producer named Milagro Sanchez, also from the West Valley. This coffee was processed at the Sumava mill, which was built in 2015, and it became operational for the 2015-16 harvest back in December of 2015. And is owned by our friend Francisco Mena, who owns Exclusive Coffees, who's also our partner in this project. Before we get into the variety of it, I think we should probably talk with Jordan a little bit about how he's brewed it.
Cool. I'm using an AeroPress today.
What's that?
An AeroPress is cool. It's a kind of funny looking little plastic tube, really portable. I like to think of it as a mix between a French press and a pour over. Just how I like to think about it. Because you get to steep the coffee in an immersion brew method similar to a French press. You're steeping it kind of like tea, but then we're going to plunge it through a paper filter. So we're going to hold back a lot of those fines, making it more of a clean cup, similar to a drip or a pour-over method.
Awesome.
So kind of a best of both worlds sort of situation.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you brewed it?
Yeah. So for this one, I used 17 grams of coffee with 270 grams of water. So it's a little bit more of an aggressive ratio than we would use for drip, simply because it's steeping together the whole time. So by the end, you're brewing coffee in coffee. So you need a little bit more to get enough strength in this brew. And then I'm letting it brew for about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to plunge it really slowly. I find that's important with the AeroPress because of the way the filter is designed. If you plunge too hard, water likes to sneak around the side of the filter, and then you get all kinds of little tiny grinds, and it gets cloudy, and it's just not the clean cup that I really like, and I know you guys really like. We're not cloudy coffee fans here.
It's true. It tends to be a preferred method of brewing coffee on the road. I think for those of you that don't do it, I personally find it frustrating because it only makes one cup, which is a very slow process if there's more than one of you. But it is definitely a portable brewing system, as you can see with Jordan making it right now. So it's if you want to go on the road and you want to have great coffee, hand grinder and an AeroPress is one way to achieve that goal for sure. So let's talk a little bit about Caturra, because maybe some of you probably you don't know, because we talked a little bit about SL28 last time in terms of where it came from, but essentially no one can know with certainty, but we know that either the variety of Typica or Bourbon left Yemen, that area, Yemen, Ethiopia area, way back when, and most likely through an Indian monk that escaped upon the punishment of death if he was actually caught. And the legend goes that he basically wrapped seeds around his thigh and smuggled them out of Arabia and planted them in India. And the Dutch, sort of, as they were colonizing India early on, discovered coffee, and they were the ones that actually brought coffee to Indonesia, to Java, most likely, the first place that it was planted outside of that area. So Caturra isn't one of those things, Josh. It's not Typica and it's not Bourbon. So where does Caturra come from?
Caturra does come from Bourbon. Right. Bourbon was taken out of Yemen from by the French and taken to the island of Bourbon, also now called Reunion Island. And it really stayed there for a long time. And it was introduced to East Africa first, and then it didn't come to the Americas until 1800s. And didn't really become popular until late 19th century. And Caturra is a a naturally found mutation of Bourbon that was found in the northern region of Minas Gerais in Brazil. And it was found in like the late 1910s, 1915, 1919 area, World War I times. And then really was introduced to Central America, like maybe in the 40s, didn't get popular until the 70s. It sounds like I know a lot about what I'm talking about, but really, I just went to worldcoffeeresearch.org and read up all about this. And you can too.
There you go. World Coffee Research obviously is a very important organization. We support them. The crazy thing about coffee is that, and I've said this many times in other venues, but the crazy thing about coffee, we're part of a multi-billion, hundreds of billion-dollar industry worldwide, globally. When you add value to coffee, and the craziness is that this industry is built on 0.001% of the genetic diversity available on the planet. Most of the genetic diversity of coffee is actually growing wild in the forests of Ethiopia. In all fairness, and rightly so, Ethiopia is not really in the mood to share. They've been taken advantage of by coffee companies for a long time, and they don't really feel like they've had their due. So coffee is this precarious resource on our planet that we all love, obviously, and that we all consume on a daily basis. But it is a bit sketchy in terms of its sustainability when it comes to how fragile that genetic stock is, because of it all comes from basically one plant, or a few plants, and just over the years is propagated and naturally mutated. So that's part of the reason why this 50-pound project is interesting, is because producers are trying out new things, trying to figure out if they can grow new varieties, if they'll do better in their geographic location. World Coffee Research is working on new F types, trying to find a variety of coffee that tastes great, that's heat resistant, water resistant, because our planet is changing and coffee's at jeopardy. So with that happy note, let's taste the coffee.
Caturra is known for being a bit brighter. So there's like a fair amount of acid in here. It's a red honey process, which means that first of all, a honey process means that coffees are harvested, the cherries are sorted, and then put through a depulping machine. And rather than being left to ferment and then washed, soaked, dried, it's actually the coffee seeds are left to dry with a lot of the pulp still, a lot of the mucilage still on them. And depending on the temperature that they're dried at, it can turn black, it can turn red, it can turn yellow, it can turn gold. And in the case of like higher initial temperatures, the pulp, the mucilage tends to turn red. That's what a red honey is. That's what this is. Red honeys are characterized by like a bit of a heavier mouthfeel. It's a bit more heavily process influenced flavor. This one, I get this really nice, it's kind of like a cinnamony note, but there is like a lot of like appley and citrus quality as well.
I definitely get an apple characteristic in here. For sure. Yeah, it's quite tart actually. Like it's definitely got some acidity for sure. Some drying characteristics in the mouth for sure. Now that could also be partly.
I think that's the brewing.
I think it's the brewing characteristics actually.
It's my fault. I told them what to.
I was going to say, Jordan, do you like the way this coffee tastes based on your brewing choice?
It was the first go of it. So.
There we go. Yeah, I think the brew is influencing our perception of this coffee.
I actually think this tastes like apple pie.
Yeah. It's definitely has some apple characteristics. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I usually find red honey coffees I find them a lower acidity than a yellow or a white honey. But this one is quite high in acid in a very pleasant way.
Yeah, I think it's a really high quality acid.
Surprising for a red honey.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with the variety of Caturra. Typically, like what we would see in Costa Rica with these honeys is like a Via Sarchi, which is also like quite closely related to Caturra. It's just not Caturra is like a dwarf plant produced in like really, really high volumes, or it can produce high yields. It can be planted really close together. Via Sarchi a bit bigger, and doesn't tend to produce as high in acid coffee under the same conditions. Obviously, like the conditions that the coffee is grown in matter a lot, but I think that this coffee is really exciting. Like I don't taste like regular Caturra qualities. I think the process has really helped it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
No, like this is like if you have questions about this coffee, like we want to answer questions. Like we love the idea of turning this into a dialogue of us learning what you want to know more about, us being able to share some of the knowledge that we have that we think is kind of cool, but maybe not knowing how to present it right away. Like this is a work in progress.
Facebook group conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I think that would be really helpful for us. Is if you do find these videos informative and instructional and useful, your feedback would be greatly appreciated. Just because we're making an assumption that this is beneficial to you as someone who enjoys and loves coffee. But providing us questions that we could answer, and if you want to know more about certain things, let us know, because we're happy to chat about those things for sure. So until I guess next time, when I think we're gonna throw at you another coffee from the same producer, a different variety. Keep drinking coffee. Keep savoring it, because it's worth savoring.
Look forward to a Via Sarchi red honey coming from Milagro Sanchez as well.
I don't have a cool sign-off phrase.